of counterattack. Squeak. There was a sound of the door opening and closing, and then a man said, "Here you are, Janet, Petty, make a cup of coffee. Add more sugar, things have upset me lately, and I need something sweet." A woman said. Dan Jones paused the recording, looked at Eric and asked, "Does this woman's voice sound familiar? Is this Janet Avizo?" Dan Jones nodded. "That's right. It's her. I followed her for a few days and finally locked on the target. This man is the lawyer found by Larry Feldman, Janet Avizo, and Evan Chandler in the 1993 child molestation case. I sent someone to his office under the guise of a consultation, and it took a lot of effort to get the recording. Boss, you'll know right away why I'm worth the price." She squeezed on the recorder as she spoke, and the interrupted conversation continued. Larry Feldman laughed. "Are you still upset? A bright future beckons to you, Janet." Then came Janet Avizo's laughter. "Of course I'm upset, and the closer I get to the trial, the more upset I become. What if I don't get the money?" Larry Feldman. "Whether we get the money or not depends on whether we work together, and as long as you listen to me, I promise to help you get a large amount of compensation. You know, I helped Evan Chandler get $23 million 10 years ago, and that was in 1993. And now it's 2003. Everyone's life has gotten better, prices have gone up, and $23 million is obviously not enough, and our target is $50 million. Janet Avizo was a little surprised. "The last time we met, didn't you say that $30 million was enough? Why another $20 million? And with so much money, will Michael Jackson pay?" "He's not a fool." Larry Feldman laughed. "Of course he's not a fool, but Jackson is a big star, was and still is. I know these big stars all too well. They care about their fame, because fame is money to them. He definitely doesn't want to keep things going to make a big deal, and that would be even more detrimental to this guy. In 1993, I was able to force Jackson to pay, and this time it was the same." Janet snorted. "Then please, Larry lawyer, no matter what means are used, I must get this money." Larry Feldman. "Of course, you're paid as much as I am. Now let me teach you what to say and do. First of all, we must make sure that your son, Gavin Avizo, must stand firmly with us. Theoretically, he's the subject of the lawsuit, but he's a minor, so it's up to you to exercise the power on your behalf. So everything Gavin says has to be in our favor, understand?" Janet replied in a firm tone. "Don't worry, lawyer. Gavin is my son. Of course he will stand with me, not with his own mother, but with Jackson?" "Not necessarily. Never take Janet lightly. 10 years ago, we spent a lot of time trying to convince that kid, Jody Chandler, to sue Jackson for sexually assaulting herself, and you don't know how much effort went into it. Luckily, we managed to turn Jody's mind around in the end, and that kid ended up on our side. Later, I heard that Jody was very uncomfortable inside, and he was tormented. After all, Jackson was very good to him, and it takes a huge psychological capacity to let a child lie and frame his idol. He's also getting along badly with his father, Evan, and the two are pretty much out of touch now, not necessarily for a reason. Didn't your son have cancer in the first place? But thanks to Jackson's funding, he was cured. Such a great kindness. If he relented at that time, all his efforts would have been in vain. Not only that, but we're going to be infamous on our backs. So you're ready to move, and I'll have to go abroad to avoid the limelight." Hearing this, Janet's tone was a little worried. "In this case, we need to train Gavin, Larry lawyer. You better write a piece of paper and tell him what to say, and I will let this kid memorize it." "Well, that's the best, and I'll write you a copy of it and keep it in mind by any means." "Am I going to memorize it too?" "Damn, I'm the worst at that. I didn't even graduate from high school." "Hee, as long as you meditate in your heart, this clear paper is worth $50 million, and you will definitely be able to memorize it." "Well, for the sake of the money, I'll do it." Larry Feldman added, "There's one more important thing. We need to take Gavin to Dr. Mathis. Who is he? What is he going to do? A psychiatrist. He will give us a psychiatric report, which is an important basis for prosecution and claims. Jody Chandler was reluctant to sue Jackson, and I persuaded his father, Evan Chandler, for a long time, but it didn't work well, and finally Mathis was convinced that the kid was professional. Okay, everything is as you say, and we're going to get the money. Rest assured, there are a lot of people who will be willing to help us, including Tom Schneider, the prosecutor of the city of Santa Barbara, who has always been very hateful to Michael Jackson. In 1993, it was his extreme insistence that Jackson was guilty that gave us strong confidence. Well, do you need to give him another share of the money? Asked Janet hesitantly, obviously reluctant in her tone. We can talk about the money later, when we get it. The recording went on, and after that there was little nourishment. Dan Jones pushed the lipstick in front of Eric. Boss, are you still satisfied with the value of this recording? Eric exhaled heavily, his fists clenched tightly. These bastard-eyed wolves. It's all a bunch of vampires trying to suck MJ dry. He really wanted to publish the recording right now, find a TV station, spread it on the internet, and tear up the masks of these bastards. However, I have to endure it now. I have to meet with my for a detailed discussion first, and rashly announce it may make the other party prepared, which is not conducive to the trial. A sudden blow will kill with one hit. Grudgingly, Eric complimented, Ms. Jones, you. Sure enough, it didn't disappoint me. No wonder they all say that you are the best in the industry. Dan Jones shook his finger. Don't jump to conclusions. Let's take a look at this. As she spoke, she took out a file bag from her bag, opened the seal, and pulled out a stack of documents from it. This is Janet Avizo's criminal record. This woman is indeed a repeat offender, although it cannot be used as direct evidence in a child molestation case, but it can also prove her character. The judge will consider that a woman who has committed a lot of crimes, even if she cries tears, has to put a question mark on her credibility, and people will think that it is crocodile tears. Eric flipped through the records and found that this girl had done a lot of dirty things. These include stealing, blackmail, public nudity, urinating, insulting and verbally abusing others, etc. The latest record occurred more than 2 years ago when she was caught stealing something from a supermarket. The supermarket security guard got into a confrontation with her and called the police to arrest her. However, a few weeks later, Janet took a bite back and sued the supermarket security guard for sexual abuse, saying that she had been choked 25 times and beaten. But this kind of behavior is very strange. When a woman is sexually abused, there is still time to count how many times she has been pinched. The security guard said that she was not abused at all, that the bruises on Janet's body were caused by herself, and that her purpose was to blackmail. In the end, because there was no direct evidence, under Janet's constant harassment, the supermarket finally paid her $150,000 for an out-of-court settlement. Putting the papers away, Eric wrote a check and handed it to Dan Jones. Ms. Jones, I am very satisfied with your work, and the balance will be paid to you in advance. If you can get more evidence, I'm willing to double the prize. Dan Jones took the check, put it on the lips and kissed it. I'll do my best. To be honest, before accepting your commission, I didn't have a cold interest in Michael Jackson and even somewhat believed the media reports. But after getting these recordings, reality has proved to me how disgusting some people can be, and the next step is to trace the evidence back then and see if I can get a bank statement or something. In addition, I would like to make a suggestion. I am responsible for covert investigations, and you, a rich man, can make a fuss on the surface. For example, Janet's criminal record. When the supermarket was found, the owner persuaded him to sue Janet for extortion, although there is a high probability that it will be invalid. After all, the case has been closed. But our goal is not to overturn the case, but to stir up the heat of the matter, to draw the attention of the judge and the public, and not just to stare Jackson alone. You have to take the initiative to move the target, and the victims in these records can be found and make more trouble for those guys. And Jody Chandler, who is now 23 years old, and the recording mentions that he doesn't have a good relationship with his father, and maybe that's a breakthrough as well. Eric bowed slightly. Makes sense. If you don't say, I'll do it. Okay, that's all for now. Hopefully the next time we meet, I'll get that bonus. Eric stood up and sent Dan Jones to the door, and the other man suddenly turned around and said, "By the way, I have another question for you." Say. Jackson's new song, Rolling in the Deep. I really love this song. During the interview, he said that you participated in the lyrics and composition. Is it really fake? Of course it's true. It's normal for a rich man like me to have a little hobby, just occasionally showing a hand. Eric rightfully boasted. Dan Jones pulled out a record. That's great. Sign it for me, and then ask Jackson to sign it too, okay? No problem. Hopefully the next time we meet, this record will be handed over to you along with the prize money. Sending Dan Jones away, Eric picked up his phone and dialed MYK. The bell rang for dozens of seconds, but no one answered. Thinking that something was wrong, Eric didn't fight anymore and went into the editing room to start cutting Adele's life. This shoot was shorter than Transformers, but there was actually more material than the former. Because when filming Transformers, a lot of time was wasted on rushing, sets, framing, props, etc., and a scene of road closure consumed several hours before filming started. The life of Adele is completely free of this pressure. According to the script, Eric began to go under the knife, and the work was fast on the premise of having a reference. In just one afternoon, he cut a tenth of the content. If there is no delay, you can complete the rough cut within a week, and then you can cut or fill in the material at your discretion. This movie is not in a hurry. There are no special effects. It just gets the music, dubbing, and other aspects done, and it is estimated that it will take a bit of grinding in terms of censorship, but there is no pressure to release it in December. When it was almost time to get off work, the phone rang, and it was my buckle who came back. Sorry, Eric, I was doing an activity. I didn't notice the phone, and now I found out. Is there something wrong with you? Eric took a deep breath. The incident I told you some time ago. Now that I have a little evidence, it will be very helpful for your case. You must take a look. Hearing this, Myko's voice was obviously a little excited. Really? That's great. Thank you, Eric. I'll look for you as soon as I get back. You're not at home? No, I'm in Africa right now, participating in a public welfare event on children and HIV/AIDS, and there are still a few countries to go behind, and it is estimated that it will take 4 or 5 days before I can return home. Hearing this, Eric felt a little emotional. Myko's own situation is not optimistic, but he still has the heart to do public welfare. At this time, ordinary people either study how to defend themselves and get away with their crimes, or run to promote their new songs. You call him stupid. He is not stupid. Otherwise, how can he become the king of the world's pop? It can only be said that he is too kind, such a good person by nature, but it is a pity that the world may not be kind to kind people. A kind and well-behaved person, like Myko, must be guarded by a person who doesn't follow the rules. All right then, tell me when you get back. I'll go to Neverland to find you. Walking out of the office and getting into the car, Eric asked, Peter, where's the best store? I need to buy a gift. Boss, who are you going to buy for? Man, woman, friend, old man or child? Woman, intimate woman. Peter showed a look of surprise. If you are a woman, Beverly Mall will do. It is a paradise for rich women, and it is not far from your home. Beverly Mall? Sounds familiar. Wait, and it dawned on me if Winona Ryder was caught stealing there. That's right, a lot of big stars like to shop there. It's full of jewelry, makeup, clothes, women's favorite gadgets. They have them. Okay, just send me there. Eric wants to buy a gift for Nico. because June 20th is her birthday and there are only a few days left. The big beauty doesn't say it, but she can't forget it. On that day, if you really don't say anything, you have to prepare to drink a pot. Therefore, scumbags are not so easy to be. If you want to be left and right, at least you must clearly remember each woman's love, birthday, measurements, height, dating anniversaries, and other information. And even not just the information of their own women, but also the information of their families. This job seems simple, but experienced people know that it is actually difficult. Just ask how many people don't even know the birthdays of their parents and wives. There must be a lot. 1 or 2 women are fine, 5 or 6 are reluctantly, and when there are 10 or 20, see if your CPU will go down. What if I can't remember it? Although it may not be correct to say this, people are divided into 3, 6, 9, and so on, and women are the same. I can only fit 10 slots in my head, and when the 11th person squeezes in, I can only say goodbye to the weakest one. Everyone can be good friends when they meet in the future, and Eric is willing to accompany him if he wants to have a friendship canon, but he will get along with him. It's easy to fall in love. It's too difficult to get along. Don't force it if it's not yours. Getting out of the car and walking into the Beverly Mall, it has been more than a year since Eric's first walk into this big mall on his doorstep. Men, who don't like shopping by nature, and now that Eric's clothes are all covered by Godot and Nico, there seems to be no reason to go to the mall. That is, I went to New York some time ago and went shopping with Elena's resentful women, but it was more than a month ago. Entering this big mall, the decoration is very good, and in Eric's eyes, it can catch up with the level after 2010. The circular structure of several floors is lined up with various stores. Eric walked and watched, and after thinking about it, he decided to buy something valuable. Rather than going to great lengths to come up with new tricks, time-consuming and laborious, it's easiest to spend money, which may not be a surprise enough, but absolutely no one will hate it. Standing in the middle of the hallway, he now has a Tiffany on his left and a Bulgari on his right. I looked left and right, and I still walked into the Tiffany store. The reason is simple. Eric feels that the brand Tiffany sounds better, and Hepburn once starred in the movie Tiffany's Breakfast. As for Bulgari, reading it always gives him a feeling of Indian Bollywood, and Ahsan hates it. When the guest came to the door, the shopping guide immediately approached the reception with a smile. "Sir, welcome to Tiffany & Company. Jewelry, do you have a casual look, or do you have a goal in mind?" "I guess I have a goal," Eric said casually. "So what do you need? Necklace, ring, earring, bracelet? Huh?" The shopping guide was stunned for a moment, glaring at Eric, who had received all kinds of customers, and it was the first time she had heard such a strange screening request. In an instant, her keen nerves were activated, and she realized that she might have hit shit luck and hit a big deal. "Please follow me, sir." Bringing Eric to a cabinet, the shopper pointed to one of the diamond rings. "This diamond ring is from the first pen of Master Liv Farron, adopted." "The ring doesn't work. I'm not proposing." "Okay, so how about this necklace?" There are 128 diamonds of various sizes, the largest being 4.5 carats. Eric swept. "Not bad, how much?" As per the ongoing campaign, it is $870,000 after discount, which meets your requirements. With a sigh, Eric said, "For now, but I want to know if there are any more special necklaces, earrings, bracelets, and the like are too common, and there is any kind of jewelry that will immediately become the focus of the crowd after wearing it." The shopper looked left and right, took Eric to another counter, and took out a box with an orchid brooch inside. "Sir, this orchid brooch is by Master Finham, and the orchid is encased in enamel, and the links and flower branches are made of gold. A total of 112 sapphires are set on the petals, and the shape and style are classical, revealing an oriental charm. As long as you wear it, Any woman will conquer the audience in an instant, and the woman who gets it will become the happiest person. Eric took it in his hand and looked at it carefully for a while. That's it, how much? Sir, this brooch is not an event item. It is worth $1.45 million. Do you want to buy it? The shopping guide cautiously asked. If this order can be done, the commission is higher than her annual salary. Okay, wrap it up for me and swipe it. His simple words almost made the other party faint happily. The shopping guide barely kept smiling. Sorry, sir. What you are holding is actually a sample, and the genuine product is stored elsewhere. As long as you pay a deposit, Tiffany & Company will deliver to your door within 3 days. Filling out the information and walking out of Tiffany, Eric didn't get the brooch in his hand, but he did have an extra set of accessories. It consists of an umbilical ring, a pair of bracelets, and a pair of anklets, each set with several rubies, and small bells tied to the anklets, which make a crisp and pleasant sound. This thing is priced at more than $10,000, a very interesting gadget, and the shopping guide lady took the initiative to apply to her superiors for gifts. It seems that she knows very well what the rich like to tune. Eric had already imagined what Nico was wearing and walked to the elevator to get inside to leave. With his status in Hollywood, no matter how big or small the star is, he must greet him politely when he sees him. But it's a pity that several people in the elevator can't recognize him. In the eyes of the public, except for this handsome face, he is a passerby. Ding! The elevator stopped on the 3rd floor and 3 women, 2 large and 1 small, walked in. Ari Graham. The woman at the head suddenly shouted loudly, looking surprised. Lu Xiaoli. Eric was also surprised. No matter what, he never imagined that he would meet this mother and daughter here. He felt a little ghostly, and he could always surround him unintentionally. Is this what God is destined? A man and a woman walked down next to him, and the 3 of them came in and stood beside Eric. Eric, it's a pleasure to meet you here. I guess that's called fate. Lu Xiaoli took the initiative to open her hand, and Eric smiled. After all, he had a chance to shoot and could only hug her. In the summer, everyone was dressed cooler, and the girl deliberately pushed hard, and Eric's mind immediately recalled the 2 white rabbits that night. Louis Fei also smiled lightly, and some baby fat faces pouted. Eric, hello. Hello, Crystal. Who is this lady? Eric looked at the 3rd woman, who looked to be in her 30s, fair-skinned, good-looking, 3 points more beautiful than Lu Xiaoli, and her body revealed the smell of a mature woman. As for Louis Fei, the yellow race develops relatively late. Although she is 16 years old this year, she is also very beautiful, but it will take a while before she fully grows up and exudes charm. Or she needs a man to ripen her in advance. In short, it's a little worse than the lady next to her. Ding! The elevator reached the 1st floor, and 4 people walked out. Lu Xiaoli was afraid that Eric would run away again, so she grabbed him directly. Eric, let me introduce you. She is my sister Zhou Wenxiong, Fei Fei's cousin. As soon as Lu Xiaoli spoke, Eric suddenly realized. As an insider, of course he knew Zhou Wenxiong, one of the 12 golden flowers of the former Zhuiying studio, and he never appeared in China since he went abroad. I've heard of it before and haven't seen it, but it has been rumored that Louis Fei is the ugliest in the family, and the women of the previous generation are all big beauties. Now that the real person is standing in front of him, he has to admit that this statement is very reliable. Zhou Wenxiong stretched out her hand and smiled and said, "Hello, Mr. Cooper. I am Zhou Wenxiong. You can also call me Joan, and I am also half of the film and television industry." Eric shook her hand. It was soft and felt like a cotton ball. "First time we met. It's nice to meet you, Ms. Zhou. You are also an actor?" Zhou Wenxiong shook her head. "I rarely go on stage anymore. I am mainly responsible for behind-the-scenes management, and now I work at the Hudson Theater on Broadway." When he heard about Broadway, Eric was immediately intrigued. as an organization with close ties to Hollywood, which provides excellent actors and stage plays for Hollywood all year round. The so-called Broadway does not refer to a theater called Broadway, but refers to a consortium of dozens or hundreds of theaters. Since almost all of these theaters converge on Broadway, hence the name. Some Hollywood companies have close ties to some theaters on Broadway, the most representative of which is Disney. Because many Disney movies are too suitable for adaptation into stage plays, such as Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast, and so on. The movie itself is full of singing and ballads, and it is inherently the genre to be put on the big stage. Therefore, Disney gets tens of millions of dollars in copyright fees, ticket money, and other income from Broadway every year. Economic income is one thing, and the influence it brings is also the other, and Disney is constantly strengthening its IP influence through similar means, making it a classic in the hearts of generations after generations. MGM didn't accomplish much on Broadway. After all, many movies don't fit the stage style. For example, in Hannibal, can you imagine performing the dissection of a living person on stage? But not all of them are not suitable. Legally Blonde is good and Rain Man is not bad. There is also House of Cards, which is about to start filming, and the best and most suitable is undoubtedly Frozen. Broadway might also be a good choice. Thinking. So, Eric's attention fell on Zhou Wenxiong. Broadway, that is a stage that many actors yearn for. Actors who can have a place on Broadway can often develop smoothly in Hollywood. Mr. Cooper is right. There have been quite a few Hollywood stars coming out of the Hudson Theater. You work at Hudson Theater, and I think I've heard the name come from, and it seems to be a fairly old theater. Zhou Wenxiong nodded. Yes, the Hudson Theater is the second oldest movie theater in Hollywood, and this year happens to be its centennial. 100 years, for so long, MGM was founded in 1924, and in front of it can only be regarded as a junior. Louis Fay asked curiously, Cousin, which is the oldest theater? The New Amsterdam Theater, although only a few months before the Hudson Theater was built, was the first, and now it has been taken over by Disney, and it is arguably the best developed theater on Broadway. Disney, hee. That's Mickey Mouse's usual tactic, Eric Pye said with a smile. Lu Xiaoli looked at the time. It's almost 7 o'clock. Let's stop standing here. How about having dinner together? Although it was only a few minutes of conversation, Lu Xiaoli could already see that this guy Eric was obviously more interested in his cousin. I just don't know if I'm interested in Broadway or my sister. But whatever, just be interested. More than half an hour later, a group of 4 people came to Leonard's restaurant and asked for a private room as usual. Need wine? Asked Eric politely. A glass of brandy, Lu Xiaoli said. Just give me a glass of port wine. I can only drink juice. Eric asked for a glass of Madeira. After chatting for a while, Zhou Wenxiong asked, Eric, you are the vice president of MGM, and now that many film and television companies have entered Broadway, doesn't MGM have this idea? Broadway is a great option, especially for brand value, but MGM has its own problems. Although MGM's film library is still full, the most well-known movie rights are not in my hands, and there are not many good movies left, which may not be suitable for the Broadway stage. Zhou Wenxiong smiled. Eric, whether it is suitable or not is determined by the market. It doesn't matter if you and I say it. Don't Hollywood also have a lot of inexplicable movies? After pondering for a moment, I feel that this girl has been plucking herself, and she must have a plan. Eric couldn't help but look at the other party carefully. Joan, take the liberty of asking, what position do you hold in the Hudson Theater? Zhou Wenxiong's heart jumped, but she had already thought about how to answer this question. After so many years at the Hudson Theater, he has always been at the middle level, and it is difficult to go further, so it is better to gamble. Her face was not red and her heart was not beating. He replied, I am in charge of the theater, and I have the right to review the plays that are to be screened in the theater. Eric nodded. The theater director is a real power position, especially in a theater. It can already be regarded as a head position, and it has a lot of power. So, can I understand that way? Hudson Theater wants to work with MGM? Which film do you want to adapt to? Or do you want to establish a talent exchange channel? Zhou Wenqiang said, Eric, you are right, of course. There is a better choice, and that is that Hudson Theater needs a new owner. Hudson Theater needs a new owner? Zhou Wenqiang also stared at him closely. That's what I mean. Hudson Theater has been operating poorly for a long time, and after changing hands several times, it is still in a state of loss. Without the injection of funds, the theater would definitely collapse if it didn't last a year or two, and my boss was actually always looking for someone who was willing to take over. After listening to Zhou Wenqiang's explanation, Eric asked curiously, why is the theater doing so badly, and what is the reason? If it's an irresistible factor, then it's useless for anyone to take over. It's just a waste of money. Zhou Wenqiang organized the language. There are 3 main reasons. I think it is not a force majeure factor. First of all, the current owner is Mrs. Valence, and the theater was originally run by her husband, but the year before last, Mr. Valence was killed in an accident, so the theater went to her name. It may be a bit bad to say that, but Mrs. Valence is not a very business-minded person, and she really doesn't know much about business. The second is that the Hudson Theater is older, and the length of its history has given it a lot of weight and accumulation, but it has also made it more old and decayed. Now the theater has tables, chairs, benches, interiors, electronics, etc., and guests don't want to accommodate their personal experience because of the thickness of your history. Then there's the genre, and the lack of funding has left Hudson Theater unable to afford the big hits, and the current repertoire is relatively old. Although we are also trying new stage plays, we are even willing to support the creation of many newcomers without a fee, hoping to find a few pearls from them. But it turns out that not everyone is a master, and many newcomers are just hot-headed, and the repertoire they create is completely unstaged. Over time, the vicious circle came down, and now the Hudson Theater is on the verge of bankruptcy. Mr. Eric, my sister and Fifi both say that you are a very capable person, and your vision and courage are second to none in the whole of Hollywood. Wait, pause. Don't give me a top hat, Joan. Though compliments from pretty women will be very useful to men, but only if they are complimented without any purpose. Eric directly interrupted Zhou Wenqiang's sycophancy. No, it's not a top hat. I'm just telling the truth. Being able to decisively invest in the Huaxia continent and establish Oriental MGM, which is something that the other 6 don't dare to do. Eric and Ling, a young man who is only 22 years old, took the lead and was the first to enter China, which is the embodiment of courage and vision. China has joined the WTO, and the economy there will soon take off, and the economic takeoff will inevitably lead to the prosperity of the film market. Maybe in a few years, MGM will be able to enjoy this cake in advance. It's the same with the Hudson Theater. What it lacks is money and resources, and MGM has them all. Now that Disney has taken over New Amsterdam, why doesn't MGM take Hudson? Also, as one of the 7 major Hollywood film and television companies, I think there's no reason why MGM is inferior to Disney. Ha 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 ha. Eric opened his mouth and laughed, and the woman not only slapped her ass, but even used a provocative technique. But she is too anxious, her means are not clever, and her purpose is too obvious, and it is difficult not to suspect that she has other purposes. Eric, what are you laughing at? Asked Louis Fei with wide eyes. It's nothing. It's just that I didn't expect that a chance encounter with Emile would actually make a business. Joan, I don't understand one thing. Whether the theater is bankrupt or not, it's something that the boss has to care about. Why are you so concerned? Do you have shares? Zhou Wenqiang shook her head. No. It's just that I finally got to this position, and it is difficult for Chinese to be promoted in the United States. I think, Eric, you also know this. If there is only one purpose, it is that I want you to continue to hire me as a repertoire director after you take Hudson Theater and nothing else. Zhou Wenxiong's answer was not satisfactory, and Eric still had a fog in his heart. Because there are hundreds of theaters on Broadway, if Zhou Wenxiong is really capable, even if she leaves the Hudson Theater, she can find her next home. After all, according to what she said, she finally climbed to this position, which means that she is very capable. People who are truly capable will never worry about the company going bankrupt. So Zhou Wenxiong's explanation was somewhat contradictory, and he couldn't convince Eric anyway, and his intuition told him that there must be something wrong with it. It can't be that this girl has developed feelings for the theater. It would be too magical. Joan, your proposal is very good. Broadway is indeed an area that MGM is willing to enter, but buying a theater requires a lot of money, and it is not something I can decide alone. Eric, you don't have to buy the theater outright. You can also choose to inject capital and become a shareholder of the Hudson Theater. It doesn't make sense if it's not a complete control. This matter MGM has to think about seriously before making a decision. Perhaps realizing that she was in too much of a hurry, Zhou Wenxiong no longer insisted and changed her words and said, "How about this? You can send someone to the Hudson Theater to inspect it and then judge whether it is worth it." "No problem. Then I'm waiting for you on Broadway." Seeing that the matter between the two was almost discussed, Lu Xiaoli hurriedly William Luo. Okay. Eat something first. If you don't eat again, it will be cold." "That's right. Leonard's food is more delicious. Even Orientals can eat it. It's expensive." Louis Fei stuck out her tongue and complained. "The price is expensive because of its privacy, and besides, you are also a big star, and you still lack this money?" "Of course I'm short of money. Who said I'm a big star? My salary is very low." By Xiuzhu of the family of gold powder has made you popular all over the country. I remember that you also have a dragon babu. This is not a big star. What are the other actors? Eric continued to tease Louis Fei. "But Dragon Babu hasn't started yet. I heard the director say that it will only be broadcast in December this year, which is still early for the big star." "Then you are still playing in the United States. The special period in Huaxia is over. Don't hurry back to filming. You can't take on any drama," my mother said. "If you want to shoot, you can shoot an impact, and it's best to make a big director and a big production." "Yes, the plays that come to Fei now are not very good. We don't care about the salary. The key is that the script is not good, and the characters are not brilliant enough. Instead of wasting time in filming these scenes, it is better to study hard." "Eric, now Fei and I have hired a martial arts teacher and a performance personal trainer according to the advice you gave, and we have practiced kung fu and entered Hollywood in the future." Saying that, Lu Xiaoli picked up her wine glass. "Come, I'll toast you." The two took a sip each, and Lu Xiaoli continued, "I told you last time in New York, Fei has been practicing for more than 2 months, and now she has a certain foundation. I don't know if you can give her a role?" Hearing this, Eric was shocked in his heart, and he was surprised that the other party really dared to make such a request. It took Jackie Chan and Jet Li 20 years to break into Hollywood. Do you want to come in 2 months? Public toilets? Who knew that? Lu Xiaoli added, "I don't mean to let Fei be the starring role. Now she is still too immature to be the starring role. It's okay to make a cameo or something like that. We're willing to start from the bottom, and everything has to have a beginning." Eric nodded slightly. "You are self-aware." The fingers tapped lightly on the tabletop, as if hitting the hearts of Lu's mother and daughter. After a while, Eric spoke. "During this time, MGM's projects have already started filming, and the roles are almost set. Well, I'll go through the script when I get back, and if there's a suitable one, it doesn't hurt to have Crystal play." Hearing this, Lu Xiaoli suddenly laughed happily. "I have caught you 3 times, but I have got something useful." "Fifi, you also toast Eric." "Forget it. Crystal is still young. Let's get less involved in the wine table culture. This circle has already let too many people fall. I hope you don't get polluted by those bad atmospheres. Well, I will, Lu Yifei said heavily. Don't worry, I will definitely protect Fei Fei at all costs. The meal was eaten quickly, and it was over at 8 o'clock, and in a gentlemanly manner, he called a car for them to take them back to the hotel, and Eric went home. I was also tired from the day, especially the big battle with the Olsen sisters in the morning, which drained a lot of energy. After taking a shower, Eric went to bed early. When I woke up in the middle of the night with urine, I glanced at it when I went to the bathroom and found Lu Xiaoli's text message, which was only a short line of words. We stayed at the Rupert Hotel and I was waiting for you tonight. But the text message was sent more than an hour ago, and now it's more than 1 o'clock at night, and I don't know if this slut slept or not. Remembering that the girls in the shopping mall seduced him, 2 rabbits and a big white sheep jumped around in Eric's mind, which made him think a little. Recently, I have been eating European and American food, and it is good to change the taste. And after a good night's sleep, my energy has recovered a lot, and it is not a problem to play a night battle again. After thinking about it, Eric still sent a text message back to Lu Xiaoli. I just woke up. Did you sleep? I didn't have much hope, but I didn't expect the message to come back soon, and it was still very brief. Tell me when it's time to arrive. Damn, the decisive battle will be until dawn. After getting dressed and going downstairs, the health wine mailed by Han Samping has arrived, so let's have a drink first. He took out the disgusting green liquid that Sergei had given him from the refrigerator and toasted again. I turned around and walked out of the house, went straight to the hotel, and arrived at my destination 20 minutes later. My body was already hot and hot. Drinking the 2 liquids together, the momentum is particularly fierce, and it can be regarded as a combination of things and things. The family doctor couldn't figure out the reason, and Eric went to the hospital for a checkup and found that it did not affect his body, but made his sperm motility more vigorous. The doctors at the hospital also didn't know what the principle was, but they still advised him not to go overboard, preferably not more than twice a week, and to come to the hospital regularly for checkups. I opened the room and went straight to the 5th floor. 514, hurry up. A text message was sent, and a moment later there was a knock on the door outside. Knock, knock, knock. Click. The moment the knock sounded, Eric Crage, who was waiting at the door, opened the handle and dragged Lu Xiaoli in. Eric. Before Lu Xiaoli finished half a sentence, she was pressed to the ground with huge force, and her legs knelt down directly. After a few minutes, she pushed Eric away with all her strength, glaring at her eyes and scolding, "You bastard! Can't you prepare people?" "Is that an exaggeration?" said Eric with a laugh. "Hooligans." Lu Xiaoli was so angry that she raised her hand to fight, but she only had a lot of strength, and she was suddenly caught by Eric, turned around and walked into the bedroom. Bang! There was a muffled sound, and the woman was violently thrown on the bed. At the same time, in another room, Zhou Wenqiong opened her eyes and looked at the door. Although the movement of Lu Xiaoli leaving just now was very small, it still woke her up, and she quietly watched her cousin walk out of the room. A woman goes out in the middle of the night, and she goes out secretly, and she can guess what she wants to do. Zhou Wenqiong is a shrewd person, and she instantly thinks of Eric. She got up and got out of bed, walked to the suite of Lu's mother and daughter next to her, and found that Lu Yifei was still sleeping soundly and couldn't help but shake her head helplessly. Alas, Fei Fei, you don't know that your mother is being ridden for your future. But Eric Cooper is so handsome. In other words, it's your mom who takes advantage of her. Maybe she's enjoying it. At this time, seeing the mobile phone on the bedside, Zhou Wenqiong hesitated for a moment, but still walked over gently and picked it up. After opening it, she quickly found those text messages, which also confirmed her suspicions. My cousin was really by that young boy. 514. Should I go and see? He muttered in his heart, turned his head and left this strange thought behind, but another thought was automatically generated. If my cousin can help Fei Fei get a good role by dedicating herself, can you ask her to help? Maybe she only needs to please the other party a few more times, and MGM will come up with some resources, and she can really be the theater director. Zhou Wenxiong's mind was turning 1,000 times, and various ideas kept popping up and intertwining. Room 514, Eric and Lu Xiaoli strolled to the floor-to-ceiling window. In front of the huge floor-to-ceiling windows, you can clearly see the brightly lit high-rise buildings and streets outside. In the middle of the night, Los Angeles, the world's world-renowned entertainment center, is afraid that many people are drunk at the moment. However, as a high-end hotel, this kind of glass must not be see-through, and you can't see the inside from the outside, which feels more or less fun. It's so cool. With the air conditioner on, of course the glass will be cold. By the way, next time we have a chance, let's go out into the wilderness, have a picnic or something. Eric said with interest. If you want to go yourself, I can't. How about going to the rooftop? I went up to the top of the MGM building, and it was a bit windy, but it wasn't cold in the summer, and the location was very wide. Don't you dare, I don't dare, I can't afford to lose that person. What should I do if someone sees it? I don't want to think about it. Do I need to think? I'm the owner of that building. I don't let people go up. No one dares to go up. Okay. If you're good, let's not be here anymore. I'm feeling a little flustered. Lu Xiaoli said with a frown. What's the fluster? I can't see it outside. Before they knew it, the two had come to the mirror. Look up. Don't look down. Look in the mirror with your eyes open. How are you feeling now? Whispers like demons whispered in my ears. Lu Xiaoli shook her head slightly and didn't say a word. There was only one thought left in her head, and that was how this hateful creature could become so ferocious. It felt very strange, as if there was a fish hovering left and right in its body, swimming back and forth, its tail flapping back and forth on every nerve. Don't you want to talk? Then I'm going to listen to you. Said this. Eric suddenly laughed narrowly. You? What are you laughing at? Lu Xiaoli asked reluctantly. Just an interesting quote came to mind. Huh. Ma'am, you don't want your daughter to die in Hollywood, do you? Said Eric with some mistaste. Mentioned Louis Fei. Lu Xiaoli's head suddenly cleared up. Bastard, Eric Cooper, you're such an out-and-out scoundrel bastard that you threaten me. With Fifi. The first time we met, when we were in the Forbidden City, I kindly raised Crystal's problem and showed her the way. Strangers who will tell you this, you can't say that you are a benefactor, at least there is a little affection. You should have 3 or 2 points of gratitude in your heart. How can you scold me? Bastard, I think you were premeditated. Eric smiled and said in a different way. Well, if you don't want to say how you feel, answer me a question. What's the problem? What the hell are you trying to do? Don't talk nonsense. Choose one of the two. I'll ask you if you answer. Okay, then you can ask. Eric took a deep breath. Your cousin Zhou Wenxiong. What does she want to do? Lu Xiaoli snorted a few times before she spoke. Isn't she talking to you about Broadway? She has been doing this for many years since she went abroad. I don't know much. You don't know anything about it? You've been in the US for so many years. Isn't your relationship very good? A good relationship is in life, but I really don't know in terms of work. To be honest, don't talk about Broadway. I don't even know how deep the water is in the film and television industry. Otherwise, you can humiliate me like this now? You guy, I really regret it now. Why did you let Fei Fei enter the entertainment industry? The water in this circle is too mixed. Sometimes I want to vomit when it's dirty, alas. Eric said, dirty and glamorous are the characteristics of this circle. If you can't adapt to it, it's too late to quit now. Start a dance training class. Go to the factory supermarket to make screws. No one will stop. Now go out and turn left. You can get out of this circle, take a plane, and go wherever you want, and who can limit your freedom? Eric Cooper, can you speak tactfully? I just express my feelings. I talk with a gun and a stick. Fei Fei has a contract on her. Is it said that you can go? Hee hee, don't talk about this. Let's talk about what Zhou Wenqiong wants to do. I don't believe you don't know anything. What I said was true, and Wenqiong rarely talked to me about work. Not honestly, I would have liked to give Crystal a role, it seems. He was only halfway through his sentence when Lu Xiaoli hurriedly interrupted him. Wait, I know, but I know a little bit. Do you want to listen? You don't have to bargain. Lu Xiaoli was helpless. Oh, I'm really afraid of you. In fact, my cousin is not the theater director of Hudson Theater. She is just a relatively idle middle manager. During the meal, I was also very strange when she said who she was. That's really all I know. I don't really know what she's trying to do. It's a big deal for you to ask her, but don't reveal me. You just say that you investigated it yourself. Otherwise, I won't be able to get along with Wenqiong. Eric laughed and said, I knew there was a cat in it, I see. Thank you for this, good sister. Lu Xiaoli looked back at Eric with a very aggrieved expression. You guy, that's enough. What do you want from me? Looking at her pitiful appearance, Eric didn't feel distressed, but he still wanted to give a sweet date. Otherwise, if it is used badly, it will not be cool in the future. Now is not ancient times, and Eric does not want to commit crimes, let alone imprison a big living person. Eric picked up Lu Xiaoli and returned to Chuangshang and kissed her very gently. Okay, I'm joking with you. Let's not talk about your cousin. In fact, I'm really thinking about Crystal's matter. After a while, MGM plans to open an American drama with a weird theme so that she can play a role in it. Hearing this, Lu Xiaoli's eyes lit up. She was selling herself and her cousin. What she wanted was this. Immediately asked happily, what role, supporting role or protagonist? Do you have many scenes? Role, for example, have you watched 24 Hours? I've seen it. It's a very good American drama. It's a unit drama similar to it, and you can arrange for Crystal to play the heroine of a unit. It turned out to be a unit drama. Lu Xiaoli was a little disappointed. Eric pinched her waist. What's wrong with the unit drama? Are you still too young? Have you ever considered that Fei Fei is a complete amateur here in the United States? I bet you 100 random interviews, and not a single one of them will know her, and now she's not enough to take on more roles. Besides, those big names in Hollywood now, who are not working hard little by little from small roles. Leonardo DiCaprio started with a cameo appearance in Growing Pains, which was in its 6th season at that time, and the ratings for that TV series were very sluggish. Brad Pitt started as a gangster in Flowers of the End, and Johnny Depp's debut risk was given to Ghost Street, playing a small role that was brutally killed and appeared in less than 10 minutes. These big names all started with small roles, and I believe that Crystal is no worse than these people, and she can kill them all the same, can't she? Lu Xiaoli nodded reluctantly. She knew that she only had the right to make suggestions, and she couldn't influence this hateful man to make decisions. Even if the other party eats and wipes himself clean, he has no place to reason in Hollywood. Power is truth, and this rule is universal everywhere you go. What if the audience is satisfied? If the audience is satisfied, you don't need to say it. If I don't arrange a better play for her, there will be a script that will take the initiative to find the door. Remember that capital is always profit-seeking. Okay, then listen to you. Eric nodded slightly. So, how are you going to repay me? Am I not repaying you? Lu Xiaoli glanced at him. Something more powerful. You're a dancer. Do you have any special skills? Just being pressed in front of the mirror by you. Isn't that exciting enough? Eric Cooper, I think you're not only an asshole, you're a pervert. Eric raised his eyebrows. It seems that you are still not well-behaved enough. Perverted, right? Then I will do something perverted. When Eric walked out of Rupert's hotel, it was almost 5 o'clock in the morning. In June, it dawned early, and now there was a slight heat in the air, and the talion was about to rise. Yawning and rubbing his somewhat sore waist, Eric sighed to be restrained. Although the medicinal wine is very effective, it is not an elixir after all, and it has been tossed for almost 3 hours, and no matter how young the body is, it can't bear to make it like this, so you must hurry home to make up for sleep. Slamming the steering wheel towards Beverly Hills, there were fewer people on the road and driving fast, but halfway through it felt bad. Mom always likes to ask questions, and without Joshua at home to attract firepower, she will definitely ask herself where she has gone. After thinking about it, he slammed the steering wheel again, headed for the boulevard, and bought 3 apartments for himself, 2 of which are still empty, and they are just right to sleep in. On the way, he remembered the conversation with Lu Xiaoli just now, about the arrangement of Lu Yifei. Anyway, Evil Force is writing a script, and the screenwriter is asking to rewrite a chapter to be an Asian girl murdered and become a female trick or something. The ending can be written warmly. The female trick was not killed by the one family in the end, but was only temporarily sealed to lay a foreshadowing for the future. If the response to testing the waters is good, restart this role or participate in other film and television dramas and slowly raise the audience's popularity. After that, she can play a supporting role in the movie, and whether she can become the protagonist depends on her hard work and luck, and no one can say for sure. In short, I can cultivate her slowly, and it is not good to follow the old path of the past, and the ending should be very different. At the same time, Eric also told them not to give up on Huaxia. There is the basic market. It is still necessary to film, and it is more important to stabilize the basic market. Look at Zhou Renfa. He failed so completely in Hollywood, and he was still called Fege after he went back. Don't talk about it in private, at least on the surface. Who dares not to respect others? Who dares not to say a word about old artists? People's salaries are still at the top, and the resources can still get the best. This is the benefit of a solid foundation, and many viewers in China recognize him. The same is true of Lu Yifei before The Crossing, and her debut in several dramas has accumulated a terrifying number of fans for her, especially The Legend of Sword and Fairy, which has established her position in the hearts of the post-80s and post-90s. So even if it is an American, even if there have been some problems, Lu Yifei has not been affected much. The blood bar is so thick that countless female stars can't envy it. And at the same time as Eric left, Lu Xiaoli also hurriedly got dressed and went back to her room. Although she was not walked through the back door, she was still red and swollen after a series of difficult positions, coupled with the stinky man's amazing stamina. Quietly opening the door, Lu Xiaoli tiptoed in, ready to return to the bedroom gently. Coldly saw that next to the window, Zhou Wenqiang was standing there. When she was found out that she had done something wrong, her heart couldn't help but chuckle. Wenqiang, why did you get up so early? You didn't turn on the lights, which scared me. Zhou Wenqiang turned around. I drank some wine yesterday and slept early, and I woke up early today, and I couldn't sleep after I woke up, so I walked to the window and looked at the scenery outside. Then she asked knowingly, Sister, why are you still out so early? Lu Xiaoli was a little embarrassed. Yes, I woke up earlier than you, and I went out for a walk when I couldn't sleep, and I blame the glass of wine I drank. It's a mess at night in the United States, and it's not like you don't know. It's better not to go out. Is this a bad foot? I'm a little tired from walking. I'll go sleep for a while, and you can rest for a while. Lu Xiaoli didn't want to talk much. Now she really wanted to rest, and she needed to sleep well. By the way, sister, what you said I talked about with Eric Cooper, can it be successful? Lu Xiaoli was even more embarrassed, thinking to herself that I had just sold you. What did you ask me to say? She mentally organized the language, and for a moment she didn't know how to answer. Zhou Wenqiang didn't know that her dear sister had sold her, so she immediately asked for help. Sister, you have to help me. Your relationship with Eric is not very good. Speak for me. If this matter can be done, I will definitely thank you. Lu Xiaoli was extremely embarrassed. Don't worry, Wenqiong. What do we sisters say, thank you or not? Your business is not my business. When I talk to him, I'll knock on the side and help you get the hang of it. That's great. Thank you, sister. Huh. The family doesn't talk to each other, so I'll go to sleep first. Go ahead. See, you're tired. When she returned to the bedroom and found that her daughter was still asleep, Lu Xiaoli couldn't help but shake her head slightly. Daughter, the opportunity has been won for you. You have to fight. Bayu Pop. Bayu Pop. Don't shoot me. Godot screamed and ran away, and behind her, Eric pursued her with a toy gun, the beep in his hand hitting her with colored spots. Elizabeth, come and help me. Where are you? Not far away, Elizabeth hid behind a bunker and shouted, I was sniped, Captain. Ask for backup. In the house in front of her, my button was shooting through the glass with a toy gun, and the two children were having a great time. Yesterday, after returning from Africa, my coup called Eric. This morning, he picked up Godot and Elizabeth and drove all the way to the dream estate in Santa Barbara. Didn't rush to talk about business, and when he saw little Elizabeth, Micah's childlike innocence attacked, and he pulled the three of them to play a gunfight game. After more than half an hour, the four people who had been running for a long time were tired and finally ended the game and returned to the room in the sightseeing car. Playing this game in the big summer, even if it is surrounded by shade, it is still hot. After taking a shower in the bathroom first, Elizabeth looked at Godot with some envy. Eric must like her like this. Mine is so small that it doesn't feel good to look at. It's weird that he likes it. The thoughts in his head were jumbled, and Godot's voice came from his ears. Elizabeth, what's wrong with you? Finding that the little girl's gaze was a little strange, Godot couldn't help asking. It's nothing, I just don't understand why I'm developing so slowly. Many of the girls in the school are younger than me, but they are much better than me. Hearing this, Gajuo laughed. What's so strange about this? Everyone's development time is different. Maybe sleep and tomorrow you will suddenly grow taller and grow up. Well, I hope so. When the two girls came out, some wet hair was on their backs. Nida, the black maid, said, Mylock and Mr. Cooper have left. Let them play by themselves. They have something to talk about. The second daughter shrugged, and then asked the location of the karaoke room. On the other side, Eric took a USB flash drive to Midel. That's it. Turn on your computer and take a look. It's going to surprise you. With a solemn face, my buckle inserted the USB flash drive into the computer, watched the video first, and finally froze in Martin Basher's playful smile. This guy, damn bastard. My button, who has always been good-tempered, couldn't help but burst into foul language. Sure enough, I knew it was all premeditated. Martin Basher wanted to kill me. He wanted to destroy my image and make the public abandon me. Looking at the clenched fists and angry my button, Eric said, the key is who instructed him to do this, and the last question, although he didn't say it explicitly, I think it was Sony Music. My buckle didn't hesitate. It must be them. Most likely it is Tom Motorola who led this matter, and he hates me so much. It's a pity that Martin Basher didn't say it directly. I'm afraid it can't be used as direct evidence, but this video is also very meaningful. At least it proves that the documentary was all carefully planned and faked by him, and that's enough. Mylock turned on the audio again, and the conversation between Janet Avizo and lawyer Larry Feldman rang out. The recording was very long, more than 20 minutes, and my buckle kept it in such a posture and listened to the whole process. After listening to this, his face had become extremely bad, and his lips were white and shriveled as if he hadn't drunk water for a long time. Just stared at the computer screen in a daze, not moving. After a few minutes, seeing that my buttons still didn't move, Eric couldn't help but pat him on the shoulder. Maiko, the recording is over. Well, I know. After Another moment of silence. Maiko asked a little hoarsely, Eric, how did you get these things? It's nothing. I asked for a person, hired a private detective. You can rest assured in the process. There is no illegal crime. In short, we got it. It must have cost a lot of money. I can't make up for it, but how much money was spent tells me that I should pay for it. Eric smiled. Am I a person who cares about money? Am I a person who is very short of money? As he spoke, Eric poured a glass of water for Midge. I know this recording must have hit you hard, but that's the truth and we have to face it. It's all a conspiracy against you, and they're all plotting for your wealth, whether it's an adult or a child. Maiko, not every child is as kind and lovely as little Elizabeth, and minors are full of bad guys, and some people are born bad. My buckle seemed to finally recognize the reality and nodded heavily. Yes, you are very right, Eric. It seems that I should also take up the weapon of the law to defend myself. That's right, that's how it should be. On the one hand, it's a weapon of the law. On the other hand, you and I don't have the connections and wealth that these guys can compare. We should make good use of it and not waste our resources. My buckle snorted. It was mentioned in the recording just now that Jordan Chandler and Evan Chandler have a bad relationship. Maybe I should meet with Jordan and maybe I can get something useful. No, you are the direct party. It is inconvenient to come forward. I will send someone. Also, I noticed that there was a person mentioned in the recording, Tom Snyder, the attorney of Santa Barbara. Do you know this person? My button took a deep breath, the name evoking very bad memories for him. Of course I know. I will never forget this guy for the rest of my life. In 1993, he was in charge of my case. And Tom Schneider was very hostile to me from the beginning, constantly verbally attacking and seducing me into saying unfavorable things. And he single-handedly pushed for a trial on this matter and seemed to want me to be convicted very badly. I remember he was holding a press conference and almost calling me a pedophile. It had a very bad impact. I later paid Evan Chandler a large sum of money to settle out of court, but Tom Schneider was not happy with this, and he demanded that Chandler and his son continue to sue and urge me to be sent to prison. But, you know, it's over. As a prosecutor, he was supposed to be impartial, but Tom Schneider didn't. I swear I don't know him at all, and I don't know why he hates me so much. Eric sighed. My buckle. Why do you need to know someone who you hate? Maybe it's because of the color of your skin. Maybe it's because you're jealous of your achievements. Maybe it's because he's a natural bad breed. I know this guy is still the prosecutor of Santa Barbara, and it's definitely going to be against you. He has a certain amount of judicial power and has to be handled carefully. Eric, what do you suggest? Said my buckle, who was also a little worried. On the premise that we don't know what the other party will do. What we can do is to protect ourselves, and I suggest that you install cameras in all non-sensitive areas of Neverland. Especially in your own room. It's best to install a few more hidden ones in addition to the explicit cameras so that they don't be vandalized or turned off. My co thought for a while and said, It makes sense. I'll let someone do it right away. Eric reassured, Anyway, don't worry too much. With this video and audio, we have the initiative. By the way, when is your trial? I remember soon. Well, the end of July is the first trial time, and there is still more than a month left. Janet Aviso. I can already imagine what she and her accomplices will look like when the recording is played at the trial. The more Eric thought about it, the more interesting he became, and he couldn't help but laugh. And the already somewhat serious atmosphere was diluted, and my buckle couldn't help but laugh along. Congratulations, Rolling in the Deep has topped the Billboard charts. It's been expected, but it's still something to celebrate. Speaking of the new song, Michael was also very happy. He said with a smile, After I came back yesterday, I saw the news. Amy Eminem was interviewed with a black face, didn't say a word, got in the car and left. Ha ha ha. This little rascal, his song has fallen outside the 20th, and this is still the result of the hard work of publicity. Otherwise, I'm afraid he is already out of the top 50, and what face is there to be interviewed? If he dares to reply half a word, those reporters can drown him with spittle. Do you remember the slogan he shouted some time ago? Michael nodded. Of course I remember. I think that music is superior, and now as he wishes, it's just that I'm superior to him. Eric snorted coldly. After a while, no one will remember Emium's song, and the little ruffian will have to pay the price for his arrogance. This guy's Facebook account has now accumulated nearly 1 million followers. Let him grow more, and when he raises his account, I will block him after a while. Michael laughed. Eric, you're so bad. Although Eric hasn't been to Silicon Valley lately, he listens to reports every day. Facebook is now gaining momentum, with more than 13 million users in nearly 20 days. The average age of users is 20 years old, which means that the main force is still college students. Of course, not all of these 13 million users are active users, and some of them will not log in again after using them a few times. There are also some users who are keen to post their own stories, but the popularity is too low to get effective feedback. Just like writing a novel, a single machine is very torturous, and you will naturally give up after a long time. So the real active users are actually fluctuating around the tens of millions, which is already a considerable number and represents that Eric's strategy of winning all the universities in the United States in a month can be realized. Michael, what is the number of your Facebook followers right now? Michael logged into his account, and the number of 1.92 million followers on the homepage is very impressive, which is equivalent to 1 in every 5 users following him. 1.92 million, Michael. It seems that your popularity among the young group is also very high. I originally thought that your main force should be at the age of 30. Maku smiled. I think it's mainly Rolling in the Deep that helped me absorb young fans, and the style of this song is very different from the past. In fact, my vocal teacher and others have advised me to change my style and cater to the development of market players. But it's not easy to change the style, and I'm also in the groping phase until you send this song and everything comes alive. I feel like I've got an inspiration, and I'm trying to write new styles of songs, and when this lawsuit is over, maybe next year, I'm going to release a new album. Eric was also happy to see that my buckle was in such good shape, but Sony Music would definitely not give up, so he thought about it and gave a plan. My button, you're in such a stiff relationship with Sony right now. Tom Motorola definitely won't help you release a new album. And your contract with Sony hasn't expired yet, which is a hassle after all, so I have a proposal that I hope will help you get rid of the shackles of Sony Music. What is it? I looked at Eric with some surprise. The problem of the contract had always been on his mind. It's easy to say. It's to use this video of Martin Basher to direct the fire to Sony Music, let the whirlpool of public opinion swallow it, and force Sony to set you free. Is this appropriate? And there is no direct evidence pointing to Sony. Can it succeed? And will it break the law? Eric said coldly, You were splashed with so much dirty water by them, but what happened? Who was punished? Not only did not, but someone got a lot of money. We just treat others the way they do, and public opinion is a double-edged sword, which can be manipulated by them or by us. And that's the only bargaining chip we have, and if it works, you can even leave Sony with that 50% of the rights. Come to think of it, that's the rights to Elvis Presley, the Beatles, Ricky Martin, Mariah Carey, West Side Boys, Avril, Madonna, Celine Dion, and countless other singers. Not only in the United States, but also in Europe, Asia, and other regions. You're going to be the most powerful person in music, and no one can limit your freedom anymore, and I don't need to say much about what that means. Don't hesitate, Michael. Mercy to the enemy is cruelty to yourself, and they will not spare you, so we must also kill them. Just do as I say, and don't reveal this to anyone around you for the time being. I'm worried that there are ghosts around you. The so-called Buddha also has fire, and thinking of the injustice he suffered, Maiko finally nodded in agreement. Then the time is set after the end of the trial, and that time must be the time when public opinion is paying the most attention. Maiko, it's time to show your fangs for these guys to see.